Florida teachers union suing over plans to reopen schools. Could this case set a precedent nationwide? Former prosecutor Robert Bianchi explains which side has the upper hand. All right, it is back to virtual school for Florida students, but with face-to-face instruction set to start as early as next week. The Orange County Teachers Union is putting up a fight in court.
It just seems like such a risky and unwise and really reckless decision to go back to face-to-face. You can make up lost academic time. You can't make up a life.
But could the outcome of this case set a precedent nationwide? Here with his take, attorney and former prosecutor Bob Bianchi. Bob, great to have you. Before we answer that question, does this lawsuit have any chance?
You know, the lawsuit, Todd, is based on two things it's important to understand. The first part is that they're saying that they have not been given information that is vital for them to be able to protect themselves, and that the school district has been non-transparent with regard to where there have been COVID-19 outbreaks, and that they've been forced to file this lawsuit so that they can at least understand where the outbreaks are and what the plans for the school district are to reopen. That's part one. Part two is, as this lady just indicated, that we should not open until it's completely safe. We should not risk ourselves or the children or the teachers or where those kids eventually go home with their parents. And until it's understood to be completely safe, there's a constitutional responsibility for the schools to only open when it's safe and secure. That is in their Constitution. So it's a bifurcated or twofold approach. The first, get information, and moreover, until we get that information, the schools should not open.
Bob, take us to law school here. What precedent could the outcome of a state lawsuit in Florida have for states nationwide?
It's a great question, Todd. It doesn't really have any specific significance. One state's laws and regulations and case law doesn't necessarily transform over to another state. However, you can be assured that lawyers in other states will point to that as precedential in that state, and therefore it should be precedential in X, Y, or Z state. So each side will try to use that, but we often try to do that as lawyers. But in the real world of a courtroom, they say, well, that could be Florida law, but that's not New Jersey or New York law.
Right.
Although it will have a profound national impact depending one way or the other, because lawyers will still point to it.
Bob, can you envision a scenario where the lawsuit actually backfires on the teachers union, in that instead the court issues some sort of declaratory relief to the state requiring these teachers to go into the classroom?
Well, that's the interesting thing, Todd. I mean, you could have lawsuits even filed on the other side of that says, listen, we want to make sure that we can have our teachers go to school. They're mandated. They should go to school. It's safe to go to school. And if you get a court to say, yes, the state does have an obligation to have their students taught inside brick and mortar buildings, it could backfire to the point that you just raised a moment ago, where other states on the other side of the equation will then point to it, Todd, and say, you see, that's what they said in Florida. You should do it in our state, too. So each side has a vested interest throughout the country in watching what happens with this particular lawsuit. And again, why not precedential in each, when I say presidential, it's not presidential,
right.
Precedential. In other words, can't use it as precedent. It still will be something that will be viewed. So yes, it could backfire, although I don't really think so in this case, because they're really looking more for information that they're saying they're being denied, that the parents are being denied, that the teachers are being denied, that are essential in their ability to be able to inform whether they should or shouldn't go to school. So from that standpoint, it's informational.
A lot of new laws going to be created in the COVID space, definitely here in the school COVID space. Bob Bianchi, as always, a pleasure. Carly, over to you.